Well guys, we're finally here. We've reached what many would consider the biggest star to ever come out of 1%, Ian Little Gut, or just simply Ion as he goes by these days. So let's finally round out this series when we look into the story of Ian Little Gut. Ian Zakuri was born sometime during 1997 in Peru, where he and his family stayed until he reached the age of 6, when they then decided to pack up and head to Miami to start a new life. Which isn't too dissimilar to Broke Baby, another member of 1%, showing that the group is pretty diverse overall. Going to middle school in Miami, and then he attended Killian High School, which became well known over the years for teaching other famous Florida rappers like Puya and 94 Fatso. During his time in school, Ion was your average rowdy teen, doing drugs, committing petty theft, not paying attention in school, and getting into fights. This got to the point where his parents wanted to put him in Christian school, which only made Ion rebel even harder. But while he was somewhat of a troubled youth, he wasn't stupid like many of his contemporaries. He wasn't doing drugs to the point he was burning out his brain, and he wasn't thinking about nothing besides getting high and having fun. He was thinking about his future, and that's why in grade 11, he started to rap. He knew school wasn't his thing, and he wanted to find other ways to make money besides the average 9 to 5, because he found that type of stuff boring and monotonous and just the same thing day in and day out, so he was willing to do anything it took to reach his dreams and live life under his terms. Which is really the way you gotta look at it if you want to make it in this music shit. A lot of people think I can get some face tats, do some drugs, make a couple hit songs, and then I'll be famous and have $1 million in no time, but that's not how it works. It takes years and years of working, making music, failing, flopping, and then eventually working your way up to the point where you get a minor hit and then the next hit, and so on and so on. As common as that knowledge should be, for Ian Little Gut, he was really a standout in the scene because everybody else around him really thought that way, just doing drugs, not really working that hard, but he was dedicated. He worked and dabbled with music all through grade 11 but didn't take it too seriously, but by the time he was in grade 12 he started to treat it like a full-on job. Now some of his early tracks are still somewhat hard to find because it seems like he cleared out a lot of that pre-fame discography. From what I can tell, he started rapping around 2015 to 2016 and would eventually even convert his place into a makeshift studio where he would let his friends Skater Montez and Lil Slump record. Do you see how all these pieces are starting to fit together here? They all knew each other through school connections. Lil Slump was the youngest of all of them and he dropped out, while Ion actually ended up graduating and Skater Montez graduated a year previously and then dropped out of college. But either way, one of them was a vlogger and the other two were rappers. And because the Skater Montez vlogs started to take off, Ian Little Gut started to get a little bit of clout off of those as well. But really he was just trying to invest into his career, buying features with the money he made off his day job, which at the time wasn't that common because many artists in that early Florida scene didn't want to pay money for features. They just wanted to work with people who would give them to them for free. But Ion saw this as an investment. If he paid the money now, got the features and got poppin', later on he'd be able to sell his own features and make all that money back. He wasn't wrong about that, and he actually had some amazing foresight because he ended up going to an underground concert for an upcoming artist known as Lil Pump who was performing there. They vlogged the entire thing, and after the show was over, Ion got to speak to Pump and he actually ended up buying a feature from him. And that feature was placed onto the track known as Water, which a lot of people saw as a joke at the time. In fact, a lot of people thought Lil Pump was a joke in general. They wanted him to blow up because they thought it would be funny, but Ion actually had the foresight to know that Lil Pump was going to be a big deal, and he wasn't wrong because soon after that, Elementary and Lil Pump started to pick up steam, became big songs, and because of that, a lot of people were interested in Lil Pump music, and the Water feature was a rare feature in Florida, so Ian Little Gut started to blow up off the back of that. And this is how Ion got his first 100,000 plays on SoundCloud and got his initial buzz in the Miami, Florida underground scene, because at the time in late 2016, after Pump blew up, he was charging like 100,000, 50,000, some big time money for features, and Ion had one that he only paid around 3,000 for. And because of this initial buzz, he was able to gain the attention of Lil Ominous, who was a somewhat popping rapper in the scene, and of course was cousins with Lil Pump, and together they were able to form up the group known as 1%, or at least the later version of 1%. Let me explain how it actually formed up. The exact origins of 1% really come from Oak Trapstar and another artist that I haven't spoken on before known as Louis Kills, who both attended the same high school as Ion. But unlike Ion, they didn't initially jump into music because they were a bit younger. Louis Kills was in grade 11 when Ion was in grade 12, and then Oak Trapstar was in grade 10, but he ended up dropping out. Although Trap had dabbled with music a little bit, seeing as how he was actually cousins with Lil Pump, but the group didn't start officially until 2017 when Louis graduated and Trap dropped out. Ended up creating a few songs and then dropped a music video for the track Stay in Your Lane, and afterwards they all went back to their car to sash and chill, realizing all their phones were at 1% and decided to name their new group 1%, which eventually went on to include Lil Ominous, the cousin of Oak Trapstar and Lil Pump, Iron Lil Gut, Skater Montez, Icy Narco, Little Slump, and Broke Baby, although all of them were only in the group for about 1 minute or so and then they dropped out for different reasons, but they were technically part of the group, but technically not, but they're worth mentioning. Around the same time that all of that was going on, Ian would start to help out Slump with his career by getting him on a track called Big Hunnits, which dropped a full-on music video on the 777 channel later that month, which the 777 channel is the one that did all the vlogs, so all the clout was coming together in the right way. And even though Slump would never admit it, this is really the track that started off his entire career, so shout out to Ian for starting all of that. I'm sure he regrets it at this point. But even better than helping out the clone of Lil Pump was getting a second feature from the actual Lil Pump on the track Big Bang. But unfortunately, after this track was posted, it was then taken down after a copyright strike was put on it from Pump's label. Yeah, it turns out this feature wasn't actually cleared by them before he put it out, so they ended up taking it down, but all that really did was help out Ian even more because it turned out he had a second Pump feature and this one was even more mysterious, so every time it got re-uploaded, a lot of people would play it. After that, he ended up dropping a more emo rap inspired track called Slip My Wrist with Lil Slump that was based off the whole GBC style that was going on at the time, showing that Ian was really tapped in with the different sounds in the underground. And then after that, he dropped his biggest track at the time, With The Gang, which gained another 100,000 views pretty quickly. Everything he was dropping was getting bigger and bigger, and even though the wider rap game wasn't aware of him yet, he was becoming a really big deal in the Miami scene. He ended up getting an interview on Mars Files, which is kind of like the Florida version of No Jumper, except the guy who runs it doesn't have a huge ego and doesn't let his wife other men. Just kidding, I love you, Adam. Ian was actually sending this guy his music for months and months. He would email him over and over again, and the guy never liked the music, but eventually he would catch on, just showing that his dedication was starting to pay off. And he even signed to an indie label called Illa Sounds that helped him begin to promote his first ever full-on project called Next Up. And the single off this album was called High School, which was a massive hit on SoundCloud, getting 1 million plays overnight, and then 9 months after that, it ended up getting a music video on Elevator, which propelled him into the mainstream, and then the SoundCloud version got 9 million plays. Finally, Ian had actually made it, but there is one weird thing about this track that I want to mention. The sample used in it was actually reused by another rapper known as Jumix for his song Loner. And then a few years after that, it was actually reused again on a Juice WRLD song called Doom. I'm not really sure why this happened time and time again, but the whole buzz around Jumix at the time and everybody calling him an industry plant, and then having the Loner song that had a stolen sample, which a lot of people thought got more attention onto the High School song, so it was a good thing in the long run. So Ian did confirm it wasn't a stolen sample and it just happened that both beats sound kind of similar, but it's not the exact same beat. After that, he ended up dropping the album, which went on to get at least 100,000 plays on each song, with some of them even getting 500,000. So you would think that he would stick with his label long term after that and drop even more projects under their name, but it turns out he didn't really like how they had creative control over all of his music, so he decided to part ways and start dropping music independently again, which you would think would screw him over in the long run, but I guess he must have had a pretty good relationship with Elevator because he ended up dropping a video on the channel almost every year, which is why I consider him one of the main 3 Elevator artists alongside Snot and Egovert. Maybe I should do a video on one of those two, but who wants to see that? Went on to drop Hollywood Party, Hide and Seek, Mood Ring, and his own track named Loner, so take that, Jumix. All these tracks went on to gain at least 20,000 views, which some of you would definitely say isn't that good, but considering the whole SoundCloud style has definitely fallen off and this type of music isn't that popular anymore, getting 20k is still pretty good compared to, you know, Slump. He even got a chance to appear in the No Jumper podcast alongside Oak Trapstar and Lil Ominous, staying pretty quiet the whole time besides telling one story about how he almost got the chance to meet Lil Peep, which definitely would have been cool. But eventually as time went on, the group known as 1% would start to drift apart. They did a lot of shows together and they still exist to this day, but a lot of the members went on to do different things, with Icy Narco going on to sell out to the industry, Little Slump going to jail over and over, both Broke Baby and Oak Trapstar unfortunately passing away, and Lil Ominous ended up taking a break from music for about a year, so he wasn't really with the group at the time. Being really only Skater Montez, who wasn't really a rapper, Iron Lil Gut, and Louis Kills left, but Ian never stopped. He dropped a second mixtape in 2021 called Next Up 2, and then a few more singles after that. He ended up dropping SoundCloud as his main platform after a certain point, going to Spotify, where he immediately gained 20,000 monthly listeners, showing that at least 20,000 people care about his music, which is more than most artists can say. Ended up networking in LA a little bit, dropped a couple songs in 2022, which still did pretty well, but then after that, he kind of faded away. He stopped dropping music and kind of disappeared out of the public eye for a couple years' time. He would appear on the 777 podcast and talk about how he was thinking of moving to LA full time so he could get more opportunities, but he was also saying that he mostly wanted to lose weight, work on himself, and get healthier as he was getting a little bit older. And he definitely got in the gym because I didn't even recognize him at first. I seen this guy hanging out with Lil Ominous and all these pictures. I'm like, who's that? And then I realized that's Iron Little Gut. He lost like half his body weight, so the boy's looking healthy. Even though right now it doesn't seem like he's dropping too much music, I gotta say it's pretty impressive for a SoundCloud rapper to be able to last into 2022. Like, he blew up back in 2016 and survived like 6 whole years in the game. When all these other SoundCloud rappers got destroyed by the SoundCloud apocalypse and the TikTok wave, Ian kept going. Well, of course, he never really blew up in a massive way, got signed to a big label and made millions of songs and got golden plaques. He definitely made a pretty healthy career for himself. And it just goes to show investing in yourself, working hard, trying to get your career off the ground and treating it like a real job, not doing drugs, getting in stupid beefs, getting a bunch of dumb face tats, and just overall just focusing on everything besides the music eventually ends up paying off. Because of all that, he got some longevity in his career, which was definitely deserved. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's working with Vice City World right now, doing shows and just plotting on his comeback. Because they're definitely helping to bring back that live show circuit in the Miami scene, and I think that wave is starting to come back to prominence, so hopefully Ion comes along with that. But with that said, we've finally covered all the members of 1%, and overall this has been a very interesting rap group to look over. A lot of people remember them, a lot of people are very fond of the music and have nostalgia for it, but they never really made it as big as somebody like Members Only, Spider Gang, or any of those groups. But despite that, I feel like they're a very important part of the SoundCloud wave that never really got mentioned, so I'm glad I was able to cover each member and kind of put together this whole 1% universe here. But with that being said, now that I've covered them all, what should I do next? Should I do Spider Gang? Should I do Members Only? Is there another group that I should cover? Definitely let me know, because I feel like I need to start up a whole new rap group somewhere else in America. Covering them, I mean, not starting up my own rap group. Although, check out Ramper's music, they're pretty sick. But anyways, if you guys liked the video, make sure to like the video, subscribe. I'm trying to get to 20,000 now, I think. I made it to 10,000. Thank you guys so much. I still got that second channel, Twisted Society. I'm posting music. If you want your own music on there, all you got to do is just go to the Instagram page. There's an email there. You can submit the audio file through that email. I'll have somebody check it out. We'll post it, and then your music will be on the channel. And then if you want an AMV, we can talk about that. There's different stuff we're doing. I got interviews going on there too, and there should be a Kill TJ one coming up soon, which is another guy that was kind of in that scene, so if you want to check that out, definitely do. But with all that said, thanks for watching. Shout out 1%, shout out Iron Little Gut, False Chris, all of those dudes. Thank you so much. Talk to you next time. Bye.